We're working on the Totally Tubular Scarf and Scooty series. In the last video, we completed the tubular knitting of the scarf and both pom-poms and finished it. So now you have this. In this video, we'll add the simplest possible hood so that you have what's on the right. If you like this sort of thing, you may enjoy one of my 2 scooty books. This is single bed scooties, all patterns that can be made without a ribber. They go from very basic to much fancier. Some of the hoods have more elaborate shaping. Some employ Fair Isle, short rows, or furry yarn, but they can all be made on single beds. This is special scooties. They are special in that each one involves a little something extra. It might be lace, it might be the use of the ribber, it might be a character scooty. A puppy dog scooty and a snake scooty are included. So these are a little more involved, and many of them do require 2 beds. So towards the end of this video, you will find a coupon code for each book so that you can make tons and tons of scooties. Now, on with the one at hand. We want to center the hood on the scarf. The hood will extend upwards towards the top of the head from the back of the neck. If you knitted to the row count I did, you probably have about 32 inches of main yarn knitting. Though including the pom-pom, the scarf is about 38 inches long. We want to mark the center 16 inches of the scarf. So marking at the 8-inch mark and the 24-inch point will give us 16 center inches out of the 32-inch scarf. If you made a different length, that's completely okay. Just find the center 16 inches. That's the main point. And that gives us a starting point for where to hang the scarf. Count the rows along this span. It should be around 60 to 64. It's okay if it's 2 or 3 more stitches than that. Just go ahead and use them. If it's less, see if you can widen the space to be a little wider than 16 inches because we really do want 60. Now I'm just hanging on the left and right needles to hold up the fabric, but we want to start in the center, hanging 1 row per needle on the needles. To make a neat, strong connection between the hood and the scarf, we want to hang, as you see me doing, so that an entire piece of chain, that's really 1 vertical column of stitches, is being picked up and hung. I find that working from the center point of the scarf outwards works the best, and then tuck the fabric of the scarf down between the 2 beds. Here's the action again, close up and slow. I'm having to use my tool at a very awkward angle so that you can see, but that's kind of good because it's going to force me to go slowly and twist and turn so I can get a look at it, and that way you can get a good look at what is happening. For a neat join, it's important that we always use the same column of stitches. See there, I shifted and I'm picking up the wrong one, and I had to go back and correct that. I was turned so I really couldn't see it very well. But if you turn in the most comfortable position and let the light catch the folded edge of the fabric that is up next to the needles, it's actually pretty easy to sight down that edge and see that you are hanging a continuous chain. In other words, 1 column of stitches, and that's what makes the prettiest seam. So get your center 16 inches of the length of the scarf hung along 1 column of stitches on the machine on at least 60 needles. A little bit more is okay. Less than 60 is going to be too skimpy. The hood wouldn't reach around and hug the face as we want. The hood will be knitted with the main sinker plate. We will not utilize the ribber. So drop the ribber all the way down. I like to bring the needles all the way forward for the first row. Here's a helpful trick for starting the yarn. Take the yarn tail of the next skein of main yarn and weave it over and under several needles. That will anchor it for you and weave it in at the same time, and later we can cut off the yarn tail. I did find that a little bit of weight was helpful. but it knitted the first row back from home with no problems. Since this yarn is thick, I went ahead and snipped it off now. If we have to snip more later to hide it, that'll be okay. I just didn't want it in the way of the knit. From this point, the knitting is very straightforward, although I did use two hands at times just because it's thick yarn. After the first few rows, I didn't find I needed to. What we are knitting here is from the back of the neck and the sides of the face up to the top of the head. You may want to knit this either 9, 10, or 11 inches long. In the gauge we are working at, that is 36, 40, or 44 rows. If you got a different row gauge, that's okay. Just multiply your desired length by your true row gauge and all will be well. Generally 9 inches fits girls who are not tiny but not anywhere close to adult size yet. 10 inches fits many adults. Ladies with big hair or taller stature and bigger heads often are more comfortable with 11. Bind off using your favorite bind off. I'm not going to go into great detail here, but I will give you a bind off video link in the program notes in case you need help with that. Now I'll just lift it off the gate pegs and we'll have a look. It's time to remove any yarn markers that you used. Here I'm pulling my two out. The last step is to make a seam that runs along the top of the head. To do that, we bring the two edges of the hood that we just knitted together and anchor those edges together at the top of the center front. I usually stitch around this twice to make it quite secure. Now seam the edges together using any seam that you like, but I'll show you the one that I like to use in this case. I like to go behind the cast off, bind off, but not the very first row of stitches that you run into, but the second one. To me, that hides the bind off better. It's purely a personal taste, seam how you want, but I find that working behind the last row of stitches is what it really is. Creates a satisfactory seam that's nice and tight and does not show any of the bind off. In this simple hood, we're not going to do a thing about the rolling edges. Because of the direction of the knitting, those edges are going to roll in towards the face. Here I'm just weaving in the yarn tail and snipping it off. Because this simple style of hood is just a rectangle, and our heads are not rectangular, it will come to a point at the back of the head. We'd have to do something else to get rid of that point. Some of the patterns in my Scoody books do have shaping there. So here is the completed Scoody, and in a moment you will see the point at the back of the head. There it is. Because the scarf was knitted tubular, the fabric is exactly the same on both sides, and of course very warm because it's double. Here you can see the edge of the hood rolling towards the person wearing it to frame the face. If that is not to your taste, you can use worm trim or crochet around. Now, about the coupon codes I want to offer you. This is my website, and I normally ask people to do their shopping here. That's because I can give you a lot more information on my own site. And I want to be sure that you know what you're getting and it suits your needs. But all of the deliveries, even through my site, are made by Ravelry. And it's by means of the Ravelry system that I can offer you coupons. Usually the coupons work perfectly through Ravelry, but not so much going through my site. So I'd like you to visit the site to get all the info you need and then visit my Ravelry store, which is here. I will insert links into the program notes to make things simpler. You don't have to remember this. Now, here are the promised coupon codes. For the book on the right, Single Bed Scooties, this is your coupon code. It will get you $2 off. For the book on the left, Special Scooties, remember you need a ribber for some of these patterns. And here is your coupon code. And it will get you $2 off the Special Scooties book. The codes are only one letter different from each other, so do write them down carefully. And have fun knitting your Scooties. Oh, and by the way, the codes expire at the end of 2020. They're not forever. and each coat is one use per customer.